The NHL Trade Deadline has passed, and we are almost at the finish line. Welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Jackson Tortone. I'm joined by my co-hosts Chris Machado and Anthony Desher to discuss the deadline and its results around the NHL, and of course, how it will affect the Stanley Cup playoff picture. Chris, who was the winner and who was the loser of this year's trade deadline?
For my winner, it's going to be short and sweet. It's the New Jersey Devils with Timo Meier. You add another Swiss player to match up with Nico Hischier. Meier dealing a little bit with injury. Practiced, though, in a full contact jersey, which was nice to see. Didn't play, though, against the Avalanche and then Vegas, but came into Mullet Arena, scored the first goal of the game in Arizona, so already making a mark. And it's nice to see that he didn't mess up the chemistry there with the Devils. And in D.C., scored the OT winner. So that was amazing to see. Meier looks like he's fitting right in, and especially going from a team that was bottom 5 to now top 3, Meier's got to be loving it in New Jersey. For my loser, however, it's going to be the Tampa Bay Lightning. It seemed to me that when they traded for Tanner Jeannot, they wanted to be the LA Rams of the NHL. They gave up a 2023 third, fourth, and fifth round pick, a 2024 second round pick, and a 2025 first round pick. I have no idea what the Nashville Predators did to Tampa Bay to make them give up all of those for a player that since has joined the Tampa Bay Lightning, a whopping 3 assists. You got him when he had 5 goals, 9 assists, and now it's 5 and 12. So I don't know what Nashville did to Tampa, but they sure got him good.
Yes, they did. Anthony, what do you think?
Well, I think the Boston Bruins had a tremendous deadline to improve an already tremendous season. You thought you could perfect perfection? Well, they perfected that perfection perfectly. They add Tyler Bertuzzi from Detroit. They get Dmitry Orlov and Garnet Hathaway from Washington, and they also extend David Pastrnak, who, if it weren't for a guy named Connor McDavid, would lead the league in goals. And you have a team that has just the ability to roll all 4 lines and come playoff time. That's very important. And you have the depth on defense to make sure you can keep those guys in there. And if any injuries happen, you'll have another guy just ready to replace them. But losers, the Flyers, they had one job, and that was to sell and get assets, picks, players, whatever it may be, and they just simply didn't do it. JVR has been rumored to get moved for months. And guess what? He's still on the Flyers. Chuck Fletcher wanted a second and a third for that guy. He just wasn't worth that many picks. Instead, they settle with moving Patrick Brown for 6 to Ottawa, and then they move Zach McEwen to LA. They get Brandon Lemieux back and also 5th. The fan uproar was just really something. No one was happy about this. They had a town hall meeting with the season ticket holders. He got booed. So that was the nail in the coffin. Instead of moving on from Chuck Fletcher at the end of the season, which was the original plan, they gave him the boot a week later, just as previous Friday. And now Danny Briere is the interim GM, and he said it's a rebuild. And the Flyers don't like that word, but they're going to do it.
Yes, I agree with you. The Flyers have been disappointing all season, and the trade deadline is a part of that. They've certainly not been flying, and the Bruins are terrifying, as per usual. Not as per usual, but this season, all season, it's crazy, actually, how successful they've been. And I agree with your points, too. The Devils, I think they've done a great job throughout the season and also with the trade deadline. And the Lightning, they're slowly starting to decline, win the Stanley Cup, then lose the Stanley Cup, and now maybe not making it. So which team do you guys think looks the most scary after the trade deadline overall? Let's start with you, Anthony.
Well, I just talked about it, so let's shift back up to Boston once again. They just broke the record. They were the fastest team ever to 50 wins. You see it there. Only took them 64 games, and that beat out the other 2 teams, Detroit and Tampa, who had 66. This team is scary. They have multiple positions in that franchise who will most likely win some type of hardware. You have Linus Ullmark, who's arguably the best goalie in the entire league. Montgomery, the coach, it's his first year with Boston. He look what he turned them into. Like I said, Pastrnak, if it weren't for McDavid, he'd be in talks with the Rocket Richard. It's just incredible what that team's been able to do. You think of what happened in the past with Tampa getting booted by the Columbus in the first round with the sweep. I just don't think this is the same type of team that Tampa Bay was. They're just so good. They're so deep. What has Boston lacked for years that they finally have gotten back? Depth scoring. And that's exactly what they got. Pavel Zacha, they added Bertuzzi, and guess what? Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno are both hurt. They're going to get those guys back, and Nick Foligno is a captain. He's a leader. This team looks so good, and it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if they lift the cup over their heads in a couple months.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to take them down, especially they don't even have double-digit regulation losses. Only 9 losses in regulation, 5 OT. So For my strong team, though, that added some depth, it's going to be the Toronto Maple Leafs, which, coincidentally, the Boston Bruins always knock out of the playoffs. But you added depth defensively, and of course you got Ryan O'Reilly from the St. Louis Blues. Did you need him? Probably not, but, I mean, he's scoring for you, so, hey, more pucks in the net. So you got Eric Gustafson from D.C., Jake McCabe from Chicago, and then Luke Schenn is now back from Vancouver for his second stint with the Maple Leafs. You added defensive depth, which is what the Maple Leafs needed. Because remember, at the beginning of this season, everybody looked at the Maple Leafs and then just tossed them in the trash, especially with their defensive core being injured, especially Jake Muzzin. So now, just in case that happens again, you added 3 new defensemen, and the Toronto Maple Leafs, they're going to try and go for a push, and they're probably going to get out of the first round this year.
I think so, and I feel bad for them because they're a great team, but they have to be stuck in the same division as Boston, which would be terrible for any team. And that being said, though, this is all for this season. For the future, all teams are looking at Connor Bedard. He's one of the top draft picks out there, probably the best young player in the country right now. Which team do you guys think is most likely to snag him up?
Well, I'll go first for this one because, Desher, I know you have a lot of prospects you want to talk about. But for me, it's Anaheim and the dumpster fire that is the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Poor guys.
So congratulations, Anaheim. You hit a negative 100 goal differential last night. Brought it back up to 99, so hey, good for you. You're at 3 digits. The Columbus Blue Jackets, a team in the offseason that broke the hearts of the Flyers, Devils, and Islanders fans, just sweeping Gaudreau from under all of the feet of those fans. But he's done absolutely nothing in Columbus, and neither has that team, being dead last. Place 32 with only 47 points, I believe, right now. So, yeah, to me, it's going to be one of these 2 teams, and I'm excited for draft lottery night.
Yeah, like I said, it's a lottery. Any of these teams that, you know, are in the top 5, top 8, whatever it may be, if you're lucky enough, you'll get a franchise generational talent like Bedard. But I want to talk about the other prospects in this draft, because missing out on Bedard is not the end of the world, even though it might be the end of the world for some teams. I'm going to start off with Adam Fantilli, the perfect power forward. He's got 7 more points than anyone else in the NCAA. He could be a franchise first-line, second-line center, depending on where you are and how much depth you have. Going on to Leo Carlsson from Sweden. In a draft year, he is one of the best players in the SHL history with the amount of points he's totaled and just how good he's been. And with Matvei Michkov, teams might be scared of him because of his contract. He's signed for a couple more years in the KHL, but when you're getting compared to Alex Ovechkin, that's a pretty good player. I mean, his shot is phenomenal, and just his ability to create open ice and just find the back of the net is just. But you know, like I said, the contract is keeping him away from being a consensus number 2 pick.
Yeah, so I think that all these young players are great. I think that a team will snag them up, and I think they'll have great futures. I think the Blackhawks, the Sharks, and the Blue Jackets should all be able to rebound eventually from this terrible season they've been having. And I think that we should be able to see an interesting future in the NHL, and not just the same thing over and over, hopefully. Well, that's all for our look into the exciting finale of trade deals in the NHL. Be sure you tune in for the conclusion of what has been an exciting season for hockey. For Penn State Sports Night, I'm Jackson Tortone, along with Anthony Desher and Chris Machado. Thank you for watching, and have a great night.
Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night. We hope you liked that segment.
And we're sure there's other Penn State Sports Night segments that you are going to love as well. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content.
And check us out on social media for updates and behind the scenes clips and pics. Follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action.
For all of us here at the Belisari Media Center, we are
Penn State Sports Night.